So, I don't know, sometime during your life, you probably heard this, where someone says, if you go in a time capsule to some point in time, when would you go? That's one of those sort of games kids play, or maybe you have it at a business retreat, or who knows what. But it's one of them. Now, don't worry, no one's come up with a time machine or whatever. You probably the first answer is I want to go back till I was 18. Okay, well we can't do that. But if you were to pick a time in history, where would you go? And if you get a room full of people together, or even a small group of people, someone's going to raise their hand and say, I want to go back to when Jesus was around.
Well, I want to go back, I don't want to go forward.
Yeah, you don't want to go forward. You want to go back to when Jesus lived, right?
Dick and I always had that conversation. He wanted to see, and I said, I like to go back.
You want to go back. So we got one going forward and one heading back. So if you're going to go back, a lot of people say, I want to go back to the time of Jesus. And why do they want to go back to the time of Jesus? They want to see him, right? They want to hear what he really said. They want to be there, right? I want to see it. Now, you have nothing to worry about. They haven't come up with a time machine which goes forward or back. Okay, so you're safe. But that is something which people really want. I want to see Jesus. And so our gospel today is some Greeks. Now it says Greeks, and these are people who may be Jewish converts. They've come up to Jerusalem for the Passover. So maybe they're converts, maybe they're Gentiles. We really don't know much about them. It all says some Greeks came to the feast, and they said, we want to see Jesus. Seems like a pretty simple request, doesn't it? What did Jesus say to them? Did Jesus say, I'll see them now? Did Jesus say, no, I'm not going to see them? No, Jesus said something totally different. And if you're Philip and Andrew, who just went to see Jesus with this, this request, hey, there's some people who want to see you, they're probably scratching their heads going, what is Jesus talking about? And unfortunately, a lot of people who want to see Jesus are still scratching their heads going, I want to see Jesus. I want to experience him. I want to know him. But somehow something is missing, right? You may come to church, okay, I want to see Jesus, and you come to church, and that's a good start. Sometimes things are a little missing. Or, sometimes people, they say, I've got Jesus, and I want to go and let everyone know about that, and they put the Jesus t-shirt on, and the honk if you love Jesus bumper sticker on the back of your car, and all that kind of stuff, and yet, that's really not what it means to see Jesus, right? There's something more to that. And so when these people come and say, I want to see Jesus, Jesus gives an answer which at first blush seems not to answer the question at all. But when you look at it, it really, really deeply answers what Jesus is talking about. Jesus starts off by saying, now's the time for me to be glorified. Jesus had gone through his whole ministry. He'd given various signs as he went along through his ministry. He started his first sign in the Gospel of John is the wedding at Canaan. The last sign he gives, the seventh sign, is the raising of Lazarus from the dead, right? He's done it all. He's given all these kinds of signs, and now here comes some foreigners coming, saying they want to see Jesus too. And he says, aha, now is the time to let you know what it's all about. This is the hour. This is the time. And he starts off by saying, it's like a grain, a little seed, which is planted in the ground. If you just have a seed, what is it? It's a seed. It's just it's a piece of nothing, right? Just a little speck. You take that seed and you put it in the ground, what happens, hopefully, right? It grows, right? It grows up. That's what it's like to see Jesus. If you really want to see Jesus, you got to take your life, that little seed, okay? He talks about the little seeds from time to time. Take the little seed and plant it. Plant it in him. Plant it in the good earth. Plant it, okay? Let that seed of yours die. putting it in the ground, and you put your life in the ground and die to yourself, you die to yourself, and you stop worrying about all of those things which are about yourself, right? We know about those things which are ourself. We take all of that and we let it die. And then what happens? When you let yourself die spiritually, give it all to God, plant yourself, what happens? It grows up, right? You start to blossom. You start to bear fruit. That's what the whole thing about being a Christian is, about bearing fruit. So, Jesus says, if you want to see me, you have to die to yourself, be buried, and rise up. Okay? Okay? Spiritually. Okay? Whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. Whoever seeks to save his life will lose it, right? It's about giving up, it's about letting go. We've talked about that a lot of times. It's about letting go, letting God take a hold of you, and being lifted up. So I mean that is really what he's talking to them about. You know, you want to see. Well, that's what it's about. He then goes on to say, if you want to serve me, you must follow me. You know, and if you want to follow me, you got to be where I'm at. Okay? You may recall at the beginning of the Gospel of John, the disciples are coming along and they say, Master, where do you live? And he says, come and see. If you want to see Jesus, you got to know where he's living. You got to live the life which he wants you to live. And to understand what he's doing, he is about serving. Okay? And wants you to be about serving. He wants you to be there with him. Not to look at him from a distance and say, okay, what's Jesus doing? What's he up to? But it's to be right there with him. You know, the best way to learn how to do a job is not to read about it in a book, right? You ever go to a training session or something where they try to train you on something? I remember going to a training session on using some computer system for work, the new bankruptcy system, computer system. And you go there and they show you all these slides on the screen. Okay, then you get down, you sit in front of the computer and you go, what do I do? Because you weren't right in there, right? You weren't being part of it. You know, you can get all that book learning, all the book learning you want, but until you really get down into it with Jesus, it's not going to do you a bit of good. You really got to experience it. So if you want to see Jesus, you have to die to yourself, and then you have to follow him too. Right? If you want to see Jesus, you got to walk in the light. He says you have the light for a little while. Walk in the light. Don't be walking off the trail going in the dark. Walk in the light. And when you walk with him and follow him, again, you're going to see him. And he'll be made visible to you. Jesus says now is the hour to glorify you to God. And a voice comes out of the heavens, right? You hear that? The voice comes booming out and says, I have brought glory to it, and I will do it again. The voice of God. And some people say, that was just thunder, right? Some people say it was an angel. People don't really hear what God is saying until you die to yourself like that mustard seed. Until you get down there in the nitty-gritty and do stuff for people and work out. Until you start walking in the light. You're not going to recognize the voice of God telling you what to do. You're just going to think, oh, it's just thunder. Oh, it's just life. You're not going to hear God's voice talking to you and say, hey, this is what I want you to do. Listen to me. Right? People oftentimes don't get it. They want to see Jesus so badly. They want to experience him so badly. But they don't realize that in order to do that, you can't just be sitting on the sidelines. You got to get in the game. And you got to see what's going on. You got to be right in there. You can't just learn it from a book. The Bible's wonderful. You can't learn it from the book. You can't learn it from just listening to Jesus talk. The disciples, they didn't quite get it. You gotta die to yourself, follow, walk in the light. If you do those things, you'll be able to see him. Now, we read a little longer than the rest of the regular passage for today. The passage starts off with the Greek saying, we want to see Jesus. How does it end? Jesus went and hid himself. He hid himself. What's that all about? If you really want to see Jesus, it's not about seeing the picture. It's not about seeing the symbols. It's not about seeing the outward. It's about you doing something in your life. That's how you see it. You don't find God by coming into a church. Well, you may learn about God, you may be directed in the right path, but it's not something that you have to coming into church. You don't see God unless you're a part of it. And if you're so busy looking at the image, right? If you're so busy talking about Jesus and I'm for Jesus and Jesus is my God and all that, sometimes you forget how you really come about seeing it. You're just seeing the window dressing. So God wants you to go deeper. Go deeper. Die to yourself. And then something great happens. Jesus says, if I be lifted up, I will draw all people to me. And we talked about those first 7 signs. Jesus being lifted up onto the cross. That's the 8th sign. That's the conclusion. That's the finality. Jesus up on that cross, dying for you, dying for me, dying for the world, drawing people to him. And the problem is people are looking down. They're looking for Jesus. They're looking for Jesus. They haven't looked up on the cross where he is there dying for them. Want to see Jesus? Die to yourself. Look up. Look at that cross. And then you'll see him. Right? There's your good news for tonight. Let's gather around and pray.